After DIEP flap surgery, you'll stay in the hospital for about 2 days, sometimes 3 days. That way you have time to have the tissue that's transferred monitored and time for the nurse and PT to help you with walking and moving around after your reconstruction. So here's how that'll go, okay? The day of surgery, you'll meet your surgeon in pre-op and they'll do some marks. We'll get everything ready. Your breast cancer surgeon will take out the cancer and the surrounding tissue as needed, like, for example, a whole mastectomy. In some cases, you can keep your nipple. In other cases, it needs to be removed. That's determined by whether the cancer is close to the nipple, the size of the cancer, and the skill of your breast cancer surgeon. Then the reconstructive team comes in. They'll clean the breast, clean the body, they'll bring over new instruments, and they'll start the reconstruction. In some cases, an implant would be sufficient, but in general, the gold standard for reconstruction is the DIEP flap. For patients who have a little bit of extra tissue on the tummy, we can do a little tummy tuck, feeding that tissue with the blood vessel that goes to that area, move it to the breast, plug it in, and that way it has blood flow to the tissue. It's almost like a cosmetic transplant surgery. We're replacing like with like. The gland was removed, skin and fat replaces it, and once it heals, it's made of you. It's warm, it's alive, it's wonderful because it has the lowest revision rate and the lowest complication rate of any of the reconstructive options. Importantly, the highest patient satisfaction rate. I love that. Okay, the CTA is a very helpful tool for your reconstructive surgeon. Definitely an experienced microsurgeon, especially a surgeon who specializes in breast reconstruction, they can do your DIEP flap without it. But when they have the gift of a scan that tells them down to the millimeter, the size, the position, and the pathway that your blood vessel anatomy takes through your tummy tissue, they can pick the most efficient procedural plan to make your surgery happen quickly and safely. This brings down the risk of problems. We don't want any surprises, right? You want a great outcome, and so does your surgeon. So by having a map, we can choose the correct vessels before we even get into the operating room to make your procedure have a nice, predictable result, great blood flow, and a shorter time in the operating room. I love a CT scan. We can do it without it. Like if there's a contrast allergy, we don't have to have it, but it sure is nice. In conjunction with the CT scan, I like to use a little blood flow monitor that tests the blood flow to your skin during the surgery. So I'll identify the 3 most likely blood vessels with or without a CT. Here are your most likely blood vessels that feed this tissue. Then I'll place a clamp on my 3rd best and I'll test the blood flow. It's almost like a little tiny stethoscope with a light, and the light tests the color of the tissue to see arterial and venous perfusion adequacy. So we can tell if you have good blood flow. Within like 60 seconds, we know. Then I know I don't need that blood vessel, but perhaps I want to test another one and see if that's necessary. Because really, the best thing would be not to open the fascia and only to use 1 blood vessel, so we don't open that fascia and separate more muscle. Now remember, we're not removing muscle, we're just making a little window and cutting the branches of the vessel to keep the main blood flow. So if we can test it as we go, then we know which blood vessels are important, potentially only using 1 vessel for patients who have the right anatomy. So the CT will help you get the right blood vessels chosen, and using an in-surgery sensor to test as you go will help make great decisions and have no surprises. On the day of surgery, your surgeon and your breast cancer surgeon will work together, especially in an immediate case, to get you in the room and get you out of the room in a timely fashion. Often we can get that reconstruction and mastectomy done during approximately 6 hours, sometimes shorter, sometimes a little longer, depending on the blood vessel anatomy, and that's the mastectomy and the reconstruction. Then you're admitted to the hospital and you stay overnight. We keep you in bed the first night and we move you to a chair the day after surgery. The first day you're just sitting in a chair relaxing, like a robe and slippers recliner, relaxing, taking a little nap. We have a little blood flow monitor on your skin on the outside that checks the blood flow, looking at the artery and the vein with the color of the tissue. It's a really cool tool. It'll give us instant feedback if there's a blood flow problem. Most of the time things go great. By day 2, they'll help you get up, the PT will help you walk in the hallway, and typically the morning of day 3 you'll go home. You'll be pretty comfortable because you'll have nerve blocks that last for 3 or 4 days that take away the pain, called Exparel. Once you get home, we'll want you to relax at home. Imagine yourself in robe and slippers and a recliner for 1 to 2 weeks. taking it easy. You might need to be flexed a little bit because the muscle feels tight where we did the repair. Remember, we didn't take away muscle. We just opened a little gap, snipped the little branches, and took out the vessel to transplant the tissue. But your tummy may feel tight that first week or two. Possibly you'll need a walker just to help you stand bent without getting a sore back, if that makes sense. So it's not about needing a walker because you're tight. It's about feeling more comfortable, bent a little that first week or two. And then once you get to week 2, you're able to stand up when you're standing still, but when you walk, you may feel better bent. But by the time the second week has passed, you're now able to go to the stage 3 of recovery, in which you can do anything you would do with a hot cup of coffee in your hand. You can take a stroll, window shop, go to the grocery, go to a movie, go to dinner. You can drive. But imagine if you had that coffee in hand. If you have to put the coffee down to do it, you shouldn't do it. You're not carrying a laundry basket. You're not sleeping with or carrying a kicky toddler. No walking big dogs. You're not vacuuming. But you could go to the office a little. You might be tired in the afternoon. Even if you feel good enough to go to work, leave yourself a little time in the afternoon to rest because deep inside you're still healing. You probably won't need a lot of pain medication after the first week or two, but you will want ibuprofen and Tylenol available for muscle aches because those can happen. By week 6, you could be jogging. By week 8, you could be back to big tennis, Pilates, or anything else that feels comfortable for you. Ultimately, the biggest part of the recovery is the first 2 weeks after you get home from the hospital. DIEP Flap Reconstruction is considered the gold standard in breast reconstruction because it has the highest patient satisfaction and the lowest lifetime revision rate, but complications can happen. Even when everything goes perfectly, there can be stress to the mastectomy skin, causing purpling and necrosis, scabby healing at the T-point or along the fold or near the incision after the mastectomy. Because the mastectomy takes out the gland from inside the breast, the outer breast skin can get thin. The mastectomy surgeon may do the procedure perfectly, but the blood supply to the skin can be stressed. Especially when we're going from really large breasts to smaller, the skin may be a little bit more vulnerable to wound healing problems. So a common complication is stress to the skin of the mastectomy, but a less common complication is bleeding in the pocket. After the DIEP flap, the mastectomy skin lining has lots of little capillaries and blood vessels. Sometimes one of those will open up, causing bleeding. Or underneath the DIEP flap, the little pipe that's feeding that tissue to keep it alive, a little bleeding can happen along that blood vessel. If it happens, we notice it early, we're able to solve the problem. We take you to the operating room right away. Your surgeon will come in, assess the situation, and get you to the operating room to wash away the bleeding. Because what we don't want is the blood to accumulate filling the breast, creating pressure that stops the blood flow from being adequate to the tissue. That becomes an emergency. In situations where there's a large hematoma that's not taken care of, it can cause death of the DIEP flap. A less common complication would be a clot in the artery or a kink in the vein. Maybe in recovery, the patient moves their arm, or they're shifted in the bed, or just bad luck. The blood vessels can kink or develop a clot, especially in the first hours or day after the surgery. Arterial clots are typically in the first hour after surgery, definitely the first 6 hours, and those are easy to see using a little blood flow monitor that we'll put on your skin. It'll instantly tell us if there's a blood flow problem. The nurse will call us, and we'll come take care of it. But if the vein is kinked, it takes more time to see it clinically. The swelling of the flap, the changes in skin color take hours. But with a blood flow monitor, we see the kink in the vein causing a subtle color change that the eye doesn't detect, but the sensor does. So within minutes, we can tell that your numbers are changing. The nurse will call us. We will come in, take a look, and straighten out that blood vessel. Very simple. It's not common to have a take back to straighten out a blood vessel or stop bleeding after a DIEP flap. It's less than 5% of the time, but if it happens, being quick and responsive is the way to solve the problem. Finally, flap loss is an extremely rare complication after DIEP flap or living tissue reconstruction. In an experienced surgeon's hands, this is less than 0.3% of the time, okay? So that's like 3 in 1,000. A rate of 3 in 1,000 reconstructions, you have death of the tissue. The cause of that may be impossible to tell. Sometimes the patient's anatomy just doesn't have good blood flow. Sometimes there's something that you can't see, a history of surgery or a port that got next to a blood vessel causing scar tissue inside. I do find that patients who have a history of liposuction of the abdomen have a higher rate of blood flow drama. That's why during surgery we use a sensor to look at the blood flow as we're operating, because we can tell early if there's a problem and change our direction or change the blood flow that we use so that we're using the best blood vessels for a patient's own anatomy. Patients who've had liposuction in their past or cool sculpting to some degree really do benefit from having a CT scan to map out the blood vessels ahead of time to help your experienced reconstructive surgeon create a surgical plan and choose the blood vessels that don't have the trauma that can cause surprise failures.